I'm Dylan.
And I'm Kiyan.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we kidnap the doctor.
And force him to do our evil bidding.
Well, I mean...
And make podcasts.
Yeah, surprise. Patrick Troughton on the show. Not really.
No.
He's dead.
He's 6 feet under.
What?
Isn't that a saying or whatever?
I mean, I guess if you're in the mob.
Oh yeah, I guess it's like put somebody 6 feet under. Well, great intro. Anyway, this week we watched The Evil of the Daleks, which should have been called The Human Factor. Should have been called The Human Factor.
Should have been called The Dalek Factor, so they could still spoil that the Daleks are the main villain.
I guess. Well, I mean, there would be a good reason for doing so, because if you hear at the end of last serial, and next week, The Dalek Factor, you'd be like, oh, crap, it's the Daleks. I better watch that. And then they don't show up for all of episode 1 until the end.
True.
So yeah.
That made it better.
It picks up right where the last serial left off, right after Ben and Polly leave. And,
Ben. The Doctor and Jamie.
Yeah, this show stars Ben now. Doesn't follow the Doctor anymore. But yeah, the Doctor and Jamie try to go back to the TARDIS, but it's been stolen.
And they see it getting taken away on
a truck.
Yeah.
So they get a cab and follow it, but it gets away, and they stop at like a gas station or whatever, I guess.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Some mechanic stop.
Yeah. And they talk to this guy. What was his name?
Don't know.
Forget.
He wasn't important.
He was semi-important just in this episode. But he like tells them the whereabouts of where he thinks the truck went or something like that. So they go there, and it's like some sort of abandoned warehouse. And meanwhile, the guy who's stolen the TARDIS, he shows up there before the Doctor and Jamie do. And he's talking to this other guy, and the other guy like wants out of the whole stealing the TARDIS thing, so he gets knocked upside the head with like a wooden beam or something. Or am I just making up the wooden beam thing?
No.
Okay, that actually happens?
Yeah.
Oh, alright.
Then the Doctor and Jamie go inside and they're like, whoa, he's been knocked out. This was the guy who told us about this company that didn't exist, that it was clearly just trying to get us to go here. But yeah, I don't think that.
And Jamie thinks it might be the faceless ones, but the Doctor's like, no, that's foolish.
So, they find this matchbook for some French cafe, the Tricolor Cafe, and so, the other guy wakes up, steals the money, and runs away and locks him in, and the Doctor's like, whoa. But they break out, and they decide to go to the cafe.
And they're looking for someone left-handed named Ken, because the guy who got knocked out was still conscious when they walked in, and he's like, find Ken, and then he like passes out. He meant to say Kennedy, but he only got out Ken. So they're looking for a guy named Ken who's left-handed, because the matchbook had the matches removed from left to right, which you could still be right-handed and do. So they go to this cafe, and they meet this guy, this butler. He's like, come to this...
No, you skip the scene where Perry's talking to Waterfield in the shop, and Waterfield's like, oh yeah, this client's coming in. Here's a picture of him. It's Dr. something.
Yeah, he gives the Doctor a name for some reason.
And his companion, James. So Perry's like, all right, I'll go meet him at the cafe then. So he does. And then that happens, and the Doctor and Jamie decide to go to the meeting with Waterfield at 10, but they show up at 9:30.
And Waterfield owns apparently owns a antique business or something.
Right.
And the Doctor and Jamie are looking around at all his Victorian-era clocks and stuff, and Jamie thinks they're all replicas because of how new and pristine they look. And the doctor's like, yeah, that's a good observation, except these are all accurate and actually Victorian. And they're like, what? What's going on here? Meanwhile, Kennedy, no.
No, yeah. Kennedy
Yeah,
has been snooping
yeah,
around.
Kennedy.
And he finds this secret room that Waterfield's been using that we haven't mentioned yet, but Waterfield's been using it to talk to somebody.
It looks way more futuristic than the rest of his house.
Well, this hiding behind a bookshelf, so.
Some
But Kennedy
Scooby-Doo
figures it out and he
stuff.
goes in there. He's looking in the safe and he's like, whoa. And he sees the weird machine in there and he's like, what? So as he's leaving, a Dalek materializes, shoots Kennedy, and then dematerializes.
And that's where episode 1 ends. Well, it ends technically before he shoots him, but
Right.
that's basically where it ends. And also where episode 2, unsurprisingly, starts. So Kennedy is like he's not in the futuristic looking room. He's in the room next to it, which becomes a plot point later. But yeah, then is that when the doctor and Jamie confront Waterfield? Or no, they find the body.
They find the body with half of a picture of the doctor in his hand. The doctor's like, whoa, he's looking for us.
Oh, right, because Waterfield moves it into the other room.
Yeah, and then the doctor notices that the rooms are out of proportion. He's like, Jamie, quick, how long is the hallway? And Jamie's like, oh, it's 18 feet. And the doctor's like, it's only 6 from the wall to the bookshelf here. There must be a secret door here. Then they figure it out. They open the door and they go in. There's a box on the ground with the other half of the picture in it. And Jamie notices, like, hey, look, doctor, look. And the doctor's like, no, don't open that. And
But
they
it's
open
too
it,
late.
and some gas comes out, and they get knocked out.
And then Waterfield comes in, and meanwhile the police are in his house because Perry has called them because he saw the dead body. And so Waterfield is like racing against the clock to get into the teleporter. What we think is a teleporter. And
Which it is a teleport.
and a time machine. and they dematerialize, and the doctor and Jamie wake up in Victorian England.
Well, we don't know that yet. They just
1866.
wake up, and they're like, where are we? And the sister's like, oh, it's
66.
1866. The dog's like, what? How is that even possible?
So they meet a couple people. They meet this maid named Molly. She's not that important. And then they meet this guy named Maxtable, who's like a scientist or something. And Waterfield's there, and we find out that that's actually where Waterfield is from.
Yeah.
So the doctor and Jamie have no idea what's going on. Well, Jamie's still sleeping, actually. The doctor has no idea what's going on. So Maxwell and Waterfield explain that the Daleks told them to kidnap him and his TARDIS because they need him for something.
Yeah, but basically, Waterfield, Waterfield had this idea about time travel, and Maxtable had money, so he's like, hey, I'll fund you. So they used mirrors and static electricity, reflecting images to time travel. Science.
It probably would have been better if they just didn't explain anything about how they tried to time travel.
Yeah.
I mean,
Then the
it
Daleks
didn't
show
add...
up.
Their mirror static electricity theory didn't add anything at all to this serial and wasn't important at all. I think they just needed to fill a 3-minute time slot.
Anyway,
show.
the Dalek comes through the door, and the Doctor's like, what have you done? As the second Doctor is wont to do every time he finds the Daleks.
Yeah, it turns out they opened a portal to, like, Sorrow. The Daleks came through, kidnapped Waterfield's daughter, and forced them to kidnap the Doctor. Which they did, and succeeded.
The Daleks, could have just done that themselves. They got a time machine.
They do have a time machine that's way more reliable than the TARDIS, which got stolen, but I'd assume they can make a new one. I mean, Scarrow looked... Well, spoiler, but Scarrow looked pretty high-tech later on in this serial. Daleks... Why?
Anyway, Jamie wakes up.
Yeah, only to be, like...
knocked over the head by some random guy and kidnapped.
Yeah, I thought that scene was actually pretty funny, which is kind of dark, but Toby, the guy who knocks him out, just, like, climbs through the window, and I'm like, who is this guy? Why is he climbing through the window? But he does so, and he knocks Jamie out, and then the Molly comes in the room, and he knocks her out, too. and puts her under a blanket in the chair Jamie was sitting in. So when the doctor comes back into the room, he's like, "Oh look, it's Jamie. He's still asleep." And he removes the blanket, and he's like,
Just pillows. They need Jamie because the Daleks want to run some tests on some humans, and they want to use Jamie as the test subject. And the doctor's like, fine. But the doctor's not allowed to tell Jamie what he's doing.
Yeah, the Dalek, not the Dalek, yes. No, the doctor,
Dr. Dalek.
I was surprised that the doctor readily agreed to do this. I mean, at this point, you find out what he was doing later, but...
Well, he didn't know where the TARDIS was. He didn't know it was on Skaro. He didn't know the portal went to Skaro. He just knew the Daleks came through it. Because every time he went into the cupboard, it didn't go anywhere. Yeah. So he didn't know the entirety of the Dalek race still existed. Maybe he just assumed it was some small force that he could overpower later.
I guess. And I mean, even what he does even makes sense later, even disregarding that. Like, even if he knew all of the Daleks were still around, what he does makes sense later. But at this point, I was kind of like, wow, Doctor, I'm surprised. Surprised at you. But they rescue Jamie.
Well, no, they Jamie escapes.
Is that when we meet Terrell, whatever his name is?
Yeah. Him and Toby talk.
Yeah, so Toby wants some pay, and Terrell's like, I wouldn't pay you if it was the last thing I did, or whatever. But then they fight, Jamie escapes, and he gets back, and he overhears the doctor talking about working alongside the Daleks, and he gets really mad.
Keep in mind at this point, Jamie doesn't know who the Daleks are.
Well, he does say something about how the doctor explained them.
Yeah, but I guess he doesn't believe the doctor. Because he's just like, yeah, you keep talking about all these Daleks and stuff, but I don't see them.
Well, he does. I mean, he gets mad, and he decides that he's going to go save Victoria on his own because the doctor's not doing anything, which is exactly what the doctor wants.
Right, but the doctor was like, don't you even think about going to save Victoria yourself, young man.
And
reverse psychology.
And I guess this is a good place to talk about this, but I thought this was really interesting because if you remember a few serials ago, Jamie was like, I don't remember in what context he said this, but he said, the only person I take orders from is the doctor.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to see how in just 2 serials he went from that to this. To like yelling at the doctor, flipping out.
Yeah, well, considering there's nothing to have instigated that change, I mean, in the Faceless ones, the doctor, like, helped Jamie for the whole serial, even when Jamie got chameleonized.
Yeah, and, I mean, I was gonna say, if this was a more gradual change, or even if there was something in the previous serial to instigate this, even just one thing, I would have actually liked this, and it would have been, like, a pretty good moment for Jamie in terms of character development, in my opinion, but seeing as there was really nothing to spur this on, other than what happened 5 minutes ago, I did feel it was a little out of character, but I can also see where Jamie is coming from at the same time, so, yeah.
I guess I just thought it was weird that for the past like 4 serials since the Highlanders, he's trusted the doctor basically without question, and then in this one serial, one line of dialogue makes him just go insane.
Pretty good actor though, Fraser Hines, whatever his name is.
Anyway, Maximal has his Turkish man Kemal,
who's awesome, who gets awesome later.
Yeah. He's mute.
Yeah, he calls Kemal in, and Kemal displays his strength by bending a metal pipe about his neck. Sounds incredibly painful, but he does it. And he's told to stop Jamie at all costs, so he goes and tries to do that.
In the south wing of the house, because that's where Victoria was moved to, I guess, because I assume she was on Skaro, and then they moved her to the south wing of the house for the whole Jamie trial experiment.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really explain it, I think, but... Yeah.
Well, they did move Victoria before Jamie went to rescue her.
Oh.
Like, I remember that scene specifically.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, that makes sense. Otherwise, they'd probably just overpower the 3 Daleks in the house and save her anyway. So Jamie goes to save Victoria, and he confronts Kemal. And that's where this episode ends.
Yep.
And,
we didn't explain what the doctor's doing for the Daleks.
Oh, yeah.
He's supposed to be from Jamie's reactions to the situations in his experiment trial thing, the Doctor's supposed to be distilling the human factor for the Daleks because they realized that they kept getting beat by the humans, so they want the human factor so they can be better than the humans.
So they commissioned the Doctor to distill Jamie's emotions into some sort of serum or circuit.
No, into a positronic brain.
Yeah. And that's what he does, and it works and stuff. Anyway, so Jamie starts to fight Kemmel, and they fight and stuff, and then Kemmel accidentally falls out of a window almost, but he's holding on, and Jamie helps him up, and that's when they become friends.
Yeah, well, Jamie figures out Kemmel likes Victoria, and he's like, yo, man, I'm gonna save Victoria, we can be buddies.
Yeah. This is when Kemmel starts being awesome. And so they go, and they've set up other traps, like steel bars with spikes that, like, fall down and stuff. And Jamie and Kemmel, like, help each other avoid the traps while trying to save Victoria. And they confront some Daleks, and they kill them. So now Jamie's on the death count.
The kill count. If he was on the death count, he'd be dead.
Yeah. So Jamie kills a Dalek, and by throwing it off the balcony.
The Doctor in this serial.
Well, we'll get there. I mean, this is the second Doctor we're talking about. So they find Victoria, and they're about to make a run for it with her, but some more Daleks show up.
Right.
And Kemmel
throws one off the balcony.
Again. And there's a secret passage into Victoria's room. And
Terrell,
was it Terrell?
Yeah. Terrell comes through, takes Victoria while Jamie and Kemmel are making sure the door is all secure. And then Jamie's like, oh, why didn't I think about it? There's a secret passageway.
And Kemmel's just like, because he's mute. So they go down the secret passage, and they find that it splits into two paths. So they split up, and Kemmel... Wait, what happens after this?
Well, Jamie gets into a sword fight with Terrell.
Yeah, Jamie gets into a sword fight, which was pretty cool.
Well, it was a reconstruction, so all we saw was pictures.
Still pretty cool.
They're fighting on the table.
We might want to mention at this point that there was tons of CGI in this serial. Tons of actually good CGI. And I was like, wow.
Good enough.
Well, I mean, it wasn't like Pixar-level CGI. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything like that. So, it was pretty good. Because, I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, okay, it's just going to be some crappy CGI they threw in there for just this one scene. But no, it showed up a lot during this serial. And upon closer inspection, even the character models actually looked pretty good with, like, their animations and stuff. They didn't look stiff or anything. And
they're okay. The character models were worse than the Dalek models.
Well, yeah,
by far.
Well, because the Daleks are all, like, right angles and stuff. But yeah, it made this serial a lot more bearable, actually. I mean, 6 episodes of reconstruction plus 1 of non-reconstruction. The CGI made it a lot better than most reconstructions.
And that home videotaped ending montage, which we'll get to in a second.
Oh, God. Anyway, where were we?
The sword fight.
Yeah, they're in a sword fight, and so...
So, what's her name? Ruth, Maxtable's daughter, is in love with Terrell, I guess.
Well,
she's engaged. Like, Terrell, stop. And then the Doctor's like, Terrell, you've got to get as far away from this house as possible. And he takes this black controlling chip off of Terrell, which I guess the Daleks put there. Which I'll talk about later, because it made the whole serial make sense to me. But, so they go away, and now Maxtable has revealed his true intentions. He's only doing this because the Daleks is going to show him how to turn metal into gold.
Yep. He's doing it for greed.
The part of the human element that the Doctor didn't put into the Daleks.
It's because Jamie's not greedy, probably. What if it turned out, like, as soon as the doctor started examining Jamie, that he was just the most backstabbing, evil person. And he just made the Daleks more powerful. Anyway,
Yeah, if they had used like, I don't know, someone else, this could have gone way worse for him.
Tagana, no.
Of course.
Kemmel and Victoria get knocked out, and they get taken to Skaro.
Yeah, this is when you find out Skaro still exists, and the Daleks all didn't die in the Daleks way back in season 1.
Yeah, and stuff. And maybe we should point out here that all of the
What happened to the Thals then? The other people on Skaro.
Yeah, it wasn't the Thals. It was. I don't even
know
remember
what I mean.
Yeah, they probably all died.
Okay.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, this might be a good time to mention that all of the Dalek serials so far have been in chronological order for the Daleks. If that makes sense.
For the past couple Dalek serials, we've been trying to figure out the chronology of the Daleks. Turns out they've been happening in order. So Daleks, then Chase, then Daleks Master Plan, then Power of the Daleks and Evil of the Daleks.
Which doesn't exactly make sense, but whatever.
Hey, it makes more sense than any other way you could try to organize them. Oh, I left out Dalek Invasion of Earth, which was before the Chase.
But yeah, the Doctor and... Well, the Daleks leave a bomb in...
No, wait, we skipped the part where the Doctor put the human factor into the Daleks.
Oh yeah, so he does that. There's the Daleks leave 3 test Daleks in Maxtable's house. Oh yeah, I also wanted to mention, this is kind of unrelated. Did the Maxtable and Waterfield families like live in the same house? I mean, what was going on there?
No, well, I thought it was explained in the beginning where Maxtable had money and he gave Waterfield the place to stay because Waterfield was working on a time machine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess makes sense. Anyway, back to what we were actually talking about. The Doctor puts the human factor into 3 Daleks, and they start playing, which is actually really interesting. And they start carrying around the Doctor and saying "Dizzy Daleks" in the Dalek voice.
And then train, choo choo.
So
and then Doctor, Jamie, friends.
So
the Doctor puts markings on the 3 Daleks.
Yeah,
this becomes important later.
He names them Alpha, Beta, and Omega. And you know, even though I was also hoping Kemmel would become a companion, spoiler, he doesn't. Later on, I was kind of hoping a humanized Dalek would become a companion. That would be pretty cool. Like a Dalek working with the Doctor against the other Daleks. A Dalek with emotions and the human factor. You have to admit, that would be kind of awesome.
No.
What? No. Of course it would be.
Wouldn't make sense.
Yes, it would.
The Daleks are already the Doctor's greatest enemy.
Yeah, and he could also use them as his greatest ally.
No, it'd be too
confusing,
sketchy, because he doesn't know how much the human factors affected the Dalek. Like, it still wants to kill. They still readily kill everybody on Skaro.
Yeah, but the Doctor should just take that risk. He's done stupider things in the past. That totally gives him license to do this.
No. Okay, so the 3 Daleks go through the thing, and the Daleks have got to bomb.
Right, they're called back to Skaro, because even though they're humanized, all the Daleks are called back to Skaro. So then the Doctor finds the bomb, and Jamie, it's about to go off in a few minutes.
And, yeah, so the Doctor and Jamie and the Doctor don't know how to stop it, and so they use the Dalek time machine to get out of the house. To Skaro.
Yeah. And episode whatever starts with
6.
6? Was it 6? Yeah, it was 6. It starts with Kemmel and Victoria in a holding cell, and they decide that they're going to try and escape. And meanwhile, the Doctor, Jamie, and
Waterfield.
Maxtable's also there, by the way, but not with them, but he's on Skaro too.
Oh, yeah, at some point before the Doctor put the human factor in the Daleks, Waterfield suddenly changes his mind. He's like, wait, we're going to create a race of super Daleks. And the Doctor's like, well, it's too late for you to develop a conscience now, Waterfield.
Yeah, which is pretty dark of the Doctor.
But it's true.
I guess.
They've already done the whole experiment, and then he brings it up like, yeah, great.
Yeah, Waterfield just seems like he's way in over his head for this entire serial. He does kind of make up for it in the end, though. But anyway... Jamie, the Doctor, and Waterfield are not in the Dalek City, so they need to get to the Dalek City. So they decide to go through this passage with a crevice, which reminded me the last time they tried to go over a crevice on Skaro back in the Daleks, which resulted in a bunch of people dying. So
I'm pretty sure it was the same crevice, because Jamie was like, how did you know that was there? And the Doctor's like, oh, don't worry, I just knew.
But, yeah, that's what I thought too at first, but didn't the wasn't the search party in back then not inclusive of the Doctor?
Well, Ian might have told him about it.
I guess. Are we just explaining things now by, they talk to each other off screen?
Well, the Doctor definitely knew about things on Scar. He's been there before.
Yeah. So, but yeah, anyway, they make it to the... Well, before they make it to the city, they run into Omega, who...
Quote unquote.
Who is like, hey, guys... I knew you were infiltrating the city, so I came to show you a safe passage. And the Doctor's like, okay. But he pretends to trip, and someone helps him up. And as he's being helped up, he notices the Omega mark on Omega, quote unquote. And then he throws Omega off the cliff. And he's like, that wasn't the real Omega. But yeah, meanwhile in the Dalek City... stuff is going wrong because
one of the humanized Daleks questions an order by going, why? And the Dalek's like, who questioned an order? He doesn't talk up, so fear, the human element.
So
the fear factor.
They make it to the city and they get an audience with the Dalek Emperor, who looked really cool. He had wires hanging all around him, and he looked pretty cyberpunk and stuff, so... Yeah. And he was basically a giant Dalek. But he didn't have the same shape. He was kind of, more cylindrical. Anyway. The Dalek Emperor reveals that the human factor wasn't their ultimate goal, and that they were just using it to concentrate the Dalek factor so that they can Dalekize the entire human race.
For all of history.
And that's why they needed the TARDIS, because they were going to force the Doctor to do it.
But they have a... They have a time machine. They have the time machine that Waterfield and the Doctor and Jamie used to get to Skaro.
Well, they did need a way to write the TARDIS out of commission during all of this, and I wanted to also mention that, to be honest, it's better than a force field surrounds the TARDIS and we can't use it anymore. So even if it doesn't make sense fully, I still think it's better than that.
I guess.
And that's where episode 5 ends.
6.
And episode 7, the final episode of season 4 and this serial, starts with stuff happening.
Well, starts where it left off.
Yeah, I guess they get imprisoned, and...
They they show Maxtable... The transmutation machine is like, yes, see, they kept their promise. The Dalek's like, if you value your life, you won't go near that machine. But Maxtable doesn't listen, and he gets Dalekized.
Yep. And we forgot to mention that Maxtable's a master hypnotist. So in the Doctor's sleep, Maxtable hypnotizes him into going through the Dalek door machine thing to Dalekize him, which apparently works. But then...
Dr. Dalek.
But... no, the Doctor's actually just pretending to be Dalekized. So he tries to get Jamie's attention and...
Tells him to come through the door when he gives him the signal. Because he switches out the Dalek factor with the human factor.
Right. And before he leaves, he gives a hint to Jamie, like we said. And then he goes to the Dalek Emperor, and who's pretty concerned that there are 3 humanized Daleks running around. And the Doctor tells him that it would be a good idea to have all the Daleks go through the door so that they can become Dalekized again. The Emperor's like, that is a good idea. Let's do that. So a bunch of Daleks walk through the thing, the panel,
the door,
or whatever,
and they get humanized, and then they start going, dizzy, dizzy Dalek.
and then Jamie and everyone else realize that it's safe to walk through the door, so they do, and nothing happens to them. And
then they escape. Well, they make a break for it.
They make a break for it, and then, just like in the last Dalek serial, massacre ensues.
The Doctor convinces the humanized Daleks to fight back against the Dalek oppressors who keep giving them orders, and they're like, yes, why must we follow orders? Then civil war erupts.
There's just another montage of Dalek deaths. We didn't know how many died. That's going to be a letter on the death count.
Well, we counted some of them that we could.
Yeah.
Then there's going to be a letter for all the other ones because the Doctor said that this is going to be the end of the Daleks.
And it almost was. But anyway, the Emperor dies. Yeah, they storm the throne room and kill him. Meanwhile, Maxtable is like doing his own thing, and he throws Kemmel off a cliff.
Kemmel dies. Just terrible. It's like I wanted him so badly to just be happy at the end of the serial and end up with Victoria and be like, yay, and for the serial to have a happy ending. But no, they had to throw him off a cliff.
Hey, maybe he was getting his just desserts for throwing those two Daleks off the balcony. No. No, I actually really liked Kemmel too, and honestly, this is probably the death that I'm most sad about in the entire show so far.
Including the first Doctor?
Yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
I would. I liked Kemmel and I wanted him to become a companion.
Well, no.
But nope. That's not happening.
They could have at least written him out better.
They could have. And then the Doctor...
Oh yeah, Waterfield gets himself killed, saving the Doctor as well.
Yeah, Dalek's about to shoot the Doctor. Waterfield pushes him out of the way and dies.
And he's like, my daughter, protect her. And he's like, all right, don't worry.
And then he says a pretty... I thought this line was pretty sad and also kind of like heartwarming or whatever, but he says that the Doctor's life was a good life to save.
True.
And I was like, wow, Waterfield came through in the end. But
the Doctor takes Victoria with him and Jamie, and they leave. And they leave.
Yep. And then you just see a bunch of dead Daleks, but one's alive.
Right.
Signifying that they will come back.
Eventually.
If you didn't already know.
Probably, maybe.
No, definitely.
5 years.
5 years from now, they do
Show-wise, not the podcast-wise.
Yeah.
Which means they don't come back till the fourth Doctor, do they?
Probably not.
Great.
Yeah, third Doctor has about the same length run as the second, a little longer, I think.
Yeah, maybe they come back in the third Doctor's final season. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, they were actually... This was actually going to be the Daleks' final serial.
Yeah.
This was going to be where they all died. But in the end, they decided, hey, we might want to bring them back later, so let's have one alive at the end.
Yeah, well, the reason they wanted to end it was because Terry Nation, the guy who created them, was trying to pitch an American TV show based on the Daleks.
Yep. What was it called?
I don't know. The Daleks.
It's called like the Destructive
Dalek Who.
Dalek Who, yes. But
Dalek.
Yeah, honestly, this was the best Dalek serial so far.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't even think it was a contest. Maybe the chase was pretty good, but the evil of the Daleks. You didn't like the chase?
The chase was okay. I liked how it ended, because they actually gave a good write-out. A couple companions for once.
Well, there was that whole Stephen running back to save stuffed panda.
Hi-fi. Honestly, this is one of my favorite serials overall. This might just be... I know I just said last week that The Faceless Ones was my favorite serial, but this might just beat it out. This is easily in my top 3. I'm not even sure yet, though. I have to think about it more.
There's a lot of good... Faceless Ones and Evil Dogs were both good serials.
Yeah, I mean, it ended in a terrible way, but at least they went out with a bang for the most part. in regards to
Literally.
season 4. Yeah, literally. I mean, there was that giant explosion effect on the Dalek Emperor. Um, but yeah, we actually wanted to talk about what makes a good serial.
Yeah.
Um, because overall, usually we say, oh yeah, this serial was pretty good or this serial was pretty bad, but it's pretty arbitrary most of the time. It's just like, did we enjoy it? And that's based on more than just the serial itself. It's based on other things we were doing that week, serial before it, and
Right.
so I think we wanted to pinpoint some points that make a good
Yeah.
serial. So I was actually thinking of some, and
I have a couple. Not many. Just a few.
yeah, one of mine was the story has to make sense, first of all. Like St. Bartholomew's Eve, no. That was a terrible serial because the story makes absolutely no sense.
Edge of
and I couldn't
Destruction.
follow it.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Same point. So, should we write these down for later reference? I think we should write these down for later reference.
Okay. What are you gonna write them down on that paper that we actually wrote something on for once? For this episode?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, we usually only write the intros to the serials.
No, don't
the
reveal
episodes.
how shoddy our
how
preparation is.
shoddy we are behind the scenes.
yes. Things that make a serial good. 1.
Wonder if the mic's picking up the pencil sounds. Guess we'll see post production. Story has to make sense.
Right.
Story
has to make sense.
We should probably put this on the website too, I guess.
Yeah, we probably should. So what was one of your points?
Oh, the villain has to be memorable in some way. Like,
Okay.
Faceless Ones was good because, the chameleons were a memorable villain. And this was good because, the Daleks, they're memorable.
Okay.
I mean, this is also why I enjoyed Celestial Toymaker, because, the Toymaker was a pretty memorable villain. Like, you're not going to forget the Celestial Toymaker after seeing that serial.
Yeah, and I mean, Tagana. He's going to be talked about more than, like, even the Doctor on this show. More, honestly, I do think we'll talk about Tagana more than any specific Doctor. Because, like, we're going to end up, eventually we're not going to talk about the first and second Doctors anymore, probably. But we're always just going to mention Tagana. Anyway, but villain has to be memorable, yes, but I don't think that memorable villains are necessarily make a good serial because, like,
Well, they were part of it.
the
Like, Underwater Menace had Zaroff, and he's pretty memorable.
he was,
And it was a pretty good serial.
but like, what was the last Dalek serial?
Power of the Daleks.
Yeah, Power of the Daleks. That wasn't that memorable. That had the Daleks though.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why it's not solely based on the villain being memorable. It's just a part of it.
Yeah, okay.
Like,
yeah,
it needs
that
the
makes
other things to be a
Yeah.
good serial.
sense. Okay. So 3. The characters can't be out of character. That's what that was one of my main points. Because, like, Edge of Destruction
Destruction.
with the characters trying to kill each other all the time. No.
No.
I won't stand for this. Characters can't be out of character. It's chicken scratch on the paper. Anyway.
I mean, this isn't like a part of it being a good serial, but whether or not we enjoy it also usually is somehow tied to whether it's a reconstruction or not.
This is true. Reconstructions, if you're not watching along, which you're probably not, reconstructions are hard to get through.
Well, I mean, it's just because it's like listening to an audio drama that wasn't designed to be an audio drama.
Right, which is why the CGI helped in this serial
Right.
a lot, in my opinion.
And why animation helps, even if it's really shoddy, like 10th, no, not 10th Planet, Reign of Terror.
But yeah, what else would make a good serial?
If you're writing someone out, don't make it
Right.
Lost Minutes.
Write-outs. Because, I mean, to be honest, Vicky's write-out kind of ruined that serial for me. Whenever I remember the Mythmakers, I'm just going to remember Vicky's terrible write-out and be like, that was a bad serial. Or like, the War
Yeah.
Machines with Dodo.
You can have a good serial, but as soon as you've got a bad write-out, it just ruins the whole thing.
Basically. Usually, I'd say serials where each character does stuff are good, which, to be honest, they've gotten better about that. Like,
Right.
in the last couple of serials, we haven't complained. I don't think in season 4 we've complained very much at all that characters aren't doing anything like we were in seasons 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So, they've gotten way better about that.
I mean, tying in with that, character development usually makes a good serial, too. I mean, that's why this serial was interesting, because the Second Doctor was pretty dark in this serial.
Yeah, I mean, in this serial, we saw like the Second Doctor do things that the First Doctor would probably never have the guts to do.
Yeah, the Second Doctor manipulated Jamie into trying to save Victoria, and then he basically wiped out the Dalek race.
Again.
Which, by the way, we're going to retroactively edit the kill count because we forgot to credit all the Daleks that the First Doctor killed when he activated the Time Destructor.
Yeah. That would also mean that he killed Sarah. So First Doctor
Unintentionally.
killed the companion.
Unintentionally.
This is
but
true,
yes.
but yeah. But yeah, I mean that looks about right. We have story has to make sense, of course. That doesn't only apply to Doctor Who. That's like literally anything.
Yeah.
Villain has to be memorable. That's also basically anything. Characters can't be out of character. Also, reconstruction that applies.
That applies solely to Doctor Who, and that won't be a problem as soon as we finish the Second Doctor.
Write-outs can't be bad, or else they'll ruin the entire serial. Characters have to do stuff, not like Barbara in season 1. And character development usually makes for a better serial.
Yeah.
And
sounds like a pretty good list to me.
Yeah, I can understand why they wouldn't have character development all the time.
Right.
Though, because like this is
We've
such a
talked
drawn
about
out
having
show.
this silly serials to break up the serious ones.
Yeah. Which they can do because this is like a 50-year long show. Anyway.
What was next on our list of things we've got to talk about?
I had the Daleks down. I don't know if you want to talk about the Daleks for a while, but we basically already did.
Yeah, I think we covered it. Was there anything else you want to say about the Daleks that we haven't covered already?
No, not really, no, actually.
Okay.
So we wanted to talk about the CGI. We already did that.
Covered that.
Well, we also wanted to talk about Jamie and the Doctor. We kind of covered them being out of character, but
Right.
only slightly.
Yeah.
I mean, it was mostly Jamie.
It was mostly Jamie blowing up after one line of dialogue instead of just being like, "Doctor, what did you mean? I follow orders," which would have been a more reasonable way to approach it.
I guess. And I thought the Second Doctor was being out of character a little bit too, until I realized that he was just manipulating everyone. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's just him. But we also wanted to talk about Ben and Polly, because we didn't give them a retrospective last time, because we thought, with the Doctor and Jamie being in London looking for the TARDIS, that this serial would take place in London, and that they might run into Ben and Polly again and give them a proper farewell, but nope. Just no.
We hoped that they would, but they didn't.
So, yeah, we totally didn't forget. That's not why we didn't give them a retrospective last time. It was because of that.
Anyway, alright, this is the dodgy Ben and Polly retrospective.
You know, I just feel that Ben and Polly didn't live up to their full potential, and I felt that they could have been companions for longer.
Probably. They could have, because they
started out with character development, during
War Machines. War Machines was their first serial. They weren't companions in War Machines.
And the 10th Planet kind of progressed that too.
Yeah.
They started out with that, and I liked that because this was the first time that I could clearly see where I thought they were going to go with these companions.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of followed up on it later, but having them written out in the Faceless ones, I feel like they just didn't have enough time to continue on with what Ben and Polly could have done. And they just didn't really follow up on it, which I was kind of disappointed about.
They kind of just used them as character development
For the
characters for the Second Doctor,
yeah.
and then they wrote them out when they were done with them.
which was a shame.
Yeah, the second Doctor, Jamie, Ben, Polly dynamic was really fun to watch. I'm kind of
Yeah, it
sad they
was.
wrote out Ben and Polly because their interactions with Jamie were some of the best ones so far.
Yeah. And I mean, overall, I liked Ben more than Polly, I'd say. Just 'cause there were some things I mentioned before. Polly was kind of iffy sometimes.
A little bit, not Barbara level. She could have been.
Ben was like the first companion to be like that, to be as spirited as he was with the Doctor. Yes, Ian sometimes was too, but Ben was kind of over the top with it sometimes, which separated him from other companions, which I liked.
Yeah.
And Ben is probably one of my favorite companions. He's up there with Steven.
Still like Ian. Ian Charterhouse.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not really much to say about Ben and Polly. They were here for barely a season.
Yeah, basically season 4.
They were here
That's
for
it.
barely a season, which is kind of an anomaly in classical. I mean, Steven was there for like almost 2 seasons. It was like a season and a half.
Yeah, Steven was season and a half. Dodo
Dodo was
just
about a season.
yeah, no,
Well, less.
she's
half
like
a
half
season.
a season.
'Cause she was replacing Vicky, I guess.
Yeah, she wasn't as memorable though, so I could see why they did that.
Yeah. Vicky was there for at least a season 'cause she went from the rescue through to the
Yeah,
Mythmakers.
Vicky was there for quite a while. I mean, apparently Jamie's going to stick around for a while longer too. I read
Which
that
is
he was
good.
Yeah, I like Jamie actually.
Yeah, he's one of the best companions so far. I mean, I wouldn't go so far to say he's on my favorite list yet, but he might be at the end. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up being one of my favorites.
Yeah. And I mean, hopefully Victoria makes for a good companion too.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, they replaced Ben and Polly with Victoria, so Victoria doesn't live up to the hype.
There was hype.
Well, she wasn't this whole serial. You know, they're hyping her up. She was locked up by the Daleks.
I guess.
Maybe part of her character development is going to be suffering through post-trauma from being
I doubt it. I doubt they're going to
Locked
go
up.
that route.
from the Daleks.
Personally, I wish Molly and Kemmel were companions instead of Victoria. Yep. I went there. Yeah, I don't know if this is just me, but I thought Ben and Polly were going to go out in a romantic way.
I thought so too.
That's what I assumed when they first showed
Like,
up.
I was pretty sure when I accidentally spoiled their rat out for me way back in, like, season 3, and then I forgot about it. I'm fairly certain I remembered reading that it was something romantic. And then I just remembered, like, 2 days ago, like, wait, didn't I read it was going to be romantic?
Maybe
Wow.
that's expanded upon in like the novels or something, or like the
Yeah, I
audio
guess it's
dramas.
expanded upon in the extended universe.
Whoniverse. Anyway, that's Ben and Polly. They weren't here for a long time, though they
What?
should have been. They weren't here for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we also wanted to talk about season 4 now that it's over.
Which we've
As a
been
whole.
doing we've been doing season retrospectives for the past 3 seasons, so we may as well do another one.
Season 4 was my favorite season.
Well, yeah, it had a lot of everything. Companions went out, the Doctor went out, the Daleks and the Cybermen
Came in and went out multiple times.
The Cybermen return next week. Let's
Yeah,
see.
this overall, I'd say this is my favorite season because, like, in past seasons, there have been great serials, obviously, but there have also been really crappy serials. And season 4 has had, subpar serials, of course, but, like, the
Smugglers.
Macra Terror, for example.
Smugglers.
But even Smugglers and Macra Terror, I didn't feel were bad. And the other serials, I thought were actually pretty good. And it also had a few of my favorite serials ever, like The Faceless Ones and Evil of the Daleks.
Season 4 was a pretty strong season, and maybe that can be chalked up to the fact that they changed some of the production crew around with the first Doctor leaving.
Right.
But, I mean, that's just one possible explanation. Either way, it was a good season. There was a lot of good serials.
I think our liking of it might be chalked up to the Doctor's regeneration, because we'd had 3 seasons with the first Doctor, and there were, I mean, I wasn't getting tired of him, but it's nice to like switch it up and see the second Doctor now. So
Yeah.
I mean,
you definitely can't chalk it up to not reconstructions, because this whole season had reconstructions.
yeah. And animations too. It had
Had everything.
animations. This was just an all-around great season. And
Hopefully they keep the momentum going into season 5.
yeah, also I wanted to say by now I think I like the second Doctor better than the first Doctor.
Yeah,
He's just more likable in my opinion.
I agree.
Maybe because he's more insane, but yeah, and Troughton's acting is just really good. Not that Hartnell's wasn't, but you know what I mean. Like Hartnell was just
Yeah, well, he
Hartnell.
was old.
Yeah, he was
so,
old. I don't blame him for it, but Troughton is just a level above in my opinion.
I mean, they're just different characters. So, I mean, saying you like the second Doctor over the first Doctor's, it's, in a way, you're saying you like one character over the other, but at the same
Yeah.
time, you're saying it's the same character, technically. It's still the
It's
Doctor.
like saying I like a companion over another companion, in a sense.
Basically. But,
Because, I mean, they have completely different personalities.
yeah. I mean, you could like both, but
And I do like both, but
the Doctors are all good. Well, only the ones I've seen are all good.
yeah, I still
Maybe-
stand by my theory that this show is going to fall into not being good soon.
Maybe 6 is just terrible. Actually, I think 6 is terrible.
I feel like starting from the third, starts to go downhill.
I think it only goes downhill when it hits the 6th Doctor, because there's a whole big behind-the-scenes fiasco with the 6th Doctor's actor and the showrunner of the show.
Yeah, we'll talk
So-
about that in a year and a half.
I mean, the 4th Doctor was there for like 7 or 8 seasons.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, anything else you want to say about season 4? What was your favorite serial from season 4?
Faceless ones.
Faceless ones? Yeah, mine too, probably, though. Evil of the Daleks is definitely up there, like I've been saying.
I mean, just Faceless ones introduced a new enemy that I guess never comes back, but it was unique. The enemy was unique in like what it was.
Speaking of enemies that come back, we have the season 4 page on the wiki open, and on the notes for the Macra Terror, it says first appearance of the Macra. Do they come back?
I guess.
The Macra come back? Did we talk about this? Did we know?
Don't they come back in the reboot?
Yeah, I think you mentioned that they might come back in the reboot. I kind
Yeah.
of forgot about that. Yeah, we did mention that actually. Ugh.
Hey,
God.
they bring back some classic enemies in the reboot, like the Autons, who
bring
appeared
back-
with the 3rd Doctor and then showed up again in the first episode of the reboot.
They should bring back good enemies though, like Celestial Toymaker and stuff.
Well, they were going to bring the Toymaker back in 6th Doctor, but, that didn't happen. They just reboot too caught up in wanting to make their own villains when they have a lot that they could draw from if they wanted to make something good. Which usually actually leads to a couple of bad episodes in the reboot.
That's all I had to say about season 4.
Yeah. These retrospectives, the season retrospectives aren't usually that
Good.
long.
Well, that too.
Looking forward, we've got season 5 coming with the return of the Cybermen again.
And season 5 overall has
7 serials.
7 serials, so that's a little bit less.
7.
Yeah, 7. I think that's a little bit less than we've been used to so far, either kind of on par or less.
This
I'm looking at season 6, it has even less.
season 6 also has 7. 5 and 6
Okay.
both have 7.
Same amount then.
Season 4 had 9, but it's 7 of them are the second Doctor.
Yeah, 1 through 3 have had more overall.
Yeah,
So
well,
we'll be
I
getting
mean,
through these serials a
still
little
the
bit
same,
faster. Or
same.
seasons.
We'll get through the season quicker, but it's still the same amount of episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
'Cause-
I mean, because season 5 is basically all 6 episode serials.
So, I mean, we'll be getting through the season quicker, but we'll
More
have to
per
work
week.
more episodes per week. But next week, 4 episodes, so that's good. I think that's everything we want to talk about. That
Yeah.
completes the list, right?
Yeah, it does. So,
Yes. Email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. No emails this week, but you can always send us one.
yep.
Check out the website, decorativevegetable.com. Death counts up there, kill counts up there. We'll put what we think makes a good serial up there, which we may update when we get to like the Third Doctor and reconstructions aren't a thing anymore. Maybe our ideas will have changed.
Yeah.
So that'll be up there.
Yeah, and next week we start off season 5 with the Tomb of the Cybermen. But until then, the end.